So, when you get into the prediction business with the UFC, when you make an MMA YouTube channel, you're naturally going to get some picks right and some picks wrong. And listen, I've gotten a lot of picks wrong throughout my tenure on YouTube. And listen, fans tell me about it all the time. This fight aged like milk, or this prediction aged like milk, whatever it may be. I get that all the time. And listen, it is what it is. I get predictions right, but also I get predictions wrong. But I don't think I've ever been more wrong on a prediction than on Taliesin Teixeira. As a while back, after his UFC debut, I said that Taliesin Teixeira was going to be a real problem at the heavyweight division. I didn't think he was that great. I didn't think he would be a champion, but because of a few certain things like his size, power, as well as his athleticism, I thought that would be enough for him to have success at this version of the heavyweight division. But boy, was I wrong. Ever since I posted that video, he got knocked out in 2 consecutive fights very quickly in the first round. He got knocked out quickly against Derek Lewis, and also he got knocked out very quickly in this fight versus Sergei Pavlovich. Taliesin Teixeira is just not the guy that I thought he could be, unfortunately for myself. And very bad prediction. And a lot of people have told me about it. And honestly, rightfully so. That was a horrible, horrible prediction. But in this fight itself between Taliesin Teixeira and Sergei Pavlovich, there isn't much to talk about outside of just an impressive knockout victory for Sergei. But essentially what happened in the short time of that fight was Sergei did a good job at pressuring effectively. And then from there, just unloaded, put punches together in combination, landed big shots, and then eventually found the finish. Now, the question is, how did he get this? Because if you take a look at a lot of Sergei Pavlovich's most recent performances, he was going to decision a lot of the times. And I think there was a main difference between those fights and this fight against Taliesin Teixeira. Now, the difference here was a lot of guys early on in Sergei Pavlovich's career were kind of obliging him in the firefight. And that's really where Sergei thrives. That's a big reason for why he was able to find quick finishes, because he was longer, faster, and more powerful than his opponents. But at a certain point, his opponents realized that if I stay on the outside and fight a little bit more safe against this guy, he's not going to be able to have as much success. Now, listen, Sergei was on a win streak, so he still was winning technically, but at the same time, he was running into a lot more adversity with that being said. And I think that's something we started to see. It was a common trend when guys went up against Sergei Pavlovich. But in this fight against Taliesin Teixeira, Taliesin kind of reverted back to how guys used to fight Sergei Pavlovich. He kind of obliged into the firefight against Sergei and ended up getting caught and ended up getting TKO'd very quickly in the fight. That's why we saw this. If Taliesin kind of tried to play the long game and try to utilize his length to stay on the outside and force, sort of a tit for tat sort of performance, that would have given him a much better chance of winning this fight. But even if he didn't, he would have at the very least probably survived at the very least. But he decided to oblige into the firefight, and that's why he got knocked out. So it's kind of is what it is. It was a 40-second fight. How much could we really talk about that performance itself? But the question that I did want to answer at this point is, a lot of fans are starting to say, oh, Sergei Pavlovich is back. He's on a win streak at this point. He finally got back to his TKO ways, finding a 40-second TKO victory in this fight against Taliesin Teixeira at UFC Macau. Is he back? Well, in my opinion, I think I think Sergei Pavlovich is in a very similar position that he's been for a while, and I think he's going to stay in this position. I think he's a legitimate top 5 guy. He's very good, fast hands, long, powerful, as I mentioned. Pause. But he has all of those intangibles, and he does have skill as well. He does have good boxing skill. And because of that, I think he's going to be a top 5 guy for a while. But with that being said, I don't ever think he's going to be a legitimate championship contender. I just don't think he's ever going to get there. Or at the very least, I don't think he's ever going to get the belt. Guys at the very top, like Tom Aspinall, Ciryl Gane, maybe even Alex Pereira, I think are just going to be a step above where Sergei is. They're not necessarily going to oblige him in the, firefight. They're going to utilize a lot of footwork, utilize calf kicks, stay on the outside, and land big shots from there, and eventually find a decision victory more likely, or possibly even a TKO on the outside. It just is what it is. Those guys are going to give him issues. But when guys do oblige this guy in the firefight, he's going to find these quick knockouts, these sub-minute knockouts. It just is what it is. But I think that's basically his ceiling. Top 5, maybe top 4. But I think guys like Ciryl Gane, Alex Pereira, Tom Aspinall, and even Volkov are just on another level as compared to Sergei Pavlovich. So that's kind of where he's at this point. It was very cool to see him get back into his winning ways, or at least his TKO ways, quick TKO ways in this fight versus Taliesin. But I still think there's a cap to Sergei Pavlovich's game. But heavyweight division sucks. You never know what can happen going forward from there. But, it is what it is. The rest of the card for UFC Macau, honestly, was pretty solid. It was very early on in the morning. I wasn't able to watch a lot of the fights, but I saw Zhang Minyang ended up losing once again. I could have predicted that. I don't think Zhang Minyang is very good. I thought the number was actually pretty crazy on the betting lines. So I'm not surprised to see Alonzo Menifield finding that TKO victory over him. And the rest of the card also is sprinkled with some other good fights as well, some good finishes. So UFC Macau was definitely a success, I thought. Pretty solid card. I wasn't able to watch the entirety of it. It was super early in the morning, but what I did watch was pretty good. And, it is what it is. I did also put together a video on the main event of this card. So if you haven't seen that, check that out as well. But anyways, boys, until the next time, peace out, fellas.